This first one is called Container. The summer I graduated from high school, my grandparents paid for a short trip to Amsterdam. I'd read about the cafes where, in place of food, waiters held out trays piled with drugs. Police stayed cool. Hustlers lined the canals ubiquitous as street lamps. A worldly friend mentioned some houses with boys, businesses stocked with lascivious teenagers. Cover the cost of their next meal or fix, and they'd escort you into a private room, strip, lie face down on a bed, glance back over their shoulder, and mutter something like, "Do you want?" I still remember the look on his face when he said that. I found a hotel near the red light district. It was clean but cramped. At dusk, I peeled an orange and headed into the cat's bee stain on my city map. I found a narrow street lined with 4-story townhouses, each charred with several centuries' dirt. Their windows had been enlarged at some point in the past. Instead of the usual living quarters, each framed a bright pink compartment too petite to be someone's bedroom, but larger than, say, a Joseph Cornell box. But where you'd expect a collage, there stood a woman or girl wearing tons of makeup, scantily clad, seen it all look on her face. I watched a man fix his eyes on one cubicle 2 stories up. His tenant shook herself out of a daydream, stepped behind the pink backdrop. He pushed a button next to the street-level door, was buzzed in. Every few minutes, another old guy would follow suit, entering one of the countless doors that lined the street, glancing nervously over his shoulder. I tried the next block. It was identical. Rows of display cases with the occasional pink blank. I tried to imagine the scenery behind those vacancies. I saw a woman's closed face, a man's face wrenched open, a puny hard-on, a gigantic vagina. I found a block packed with porn bookstores, entered one, and started thumbing through magazines. Everything seemed to be legal. Stuff that would have looked slightly ridiculous in the States, like horses fucking men, was just the tip of the iceberg. There was a whole shelf devoted to family orgies, their bodies all different sizes, their faces slight variations on one look. In other rows, men plunged fake knives into fake lovers' stomachs at orgasm. Young girls licked old women's wobbly ass cracks. Infants with mouse hole-like eyes played contentedly in the spray of a moaning man's piss. After about a half hour of browsing, the man at the counter yelled, "Make your choice." On a lower shelf I hadn't scanned yet, I saw an issue of Lad with a skinny brunette on the cover. He had a few pimples in the predictable nooks and a blank, washed-out look on his face, into which you could read any mood that you needed. "This store is not a museum," the clerk growled as he taped shut the paper bag. I grabbed my purchase, took a deep breath, and asked for directions to houses with boys. His response was a look so contemptuous I couldn't see anything else for an hour. Back at the hotel, I flopped on the bed. I lit my hash pipe and untaped the bag. There was that kid again, pale face, mouth open, head tilted back like a singer attempting to hit an extremely high note. I added up his quaint genitals, plaintive eyes, AC/DC t-shirt, and made a guess he was 13, 14. He stripped and posed awkwardly for the first several pages, sat down on an unmade bed, grinned at the camera, glanced up, grinned at a fat, balding man who was sitting down next to him. The man gripped the boy's head, lowered it to his thighs as if preparing to hike it. Greasy hairs spewed out between his white knuckles. He licked the boy's nipples like pieces of candy. He held the boy down, fucked his spitty mouth. A wrinkled hand flipped the delicate penis from side to side. The photographs left nothing out, from the soles of the boy's calloused feet to the hair's finest spiderwebs trickling down his nape. But when the man finally got to the asshole, he turned up a kind of gargoyle where he'd surely sought something more rosebud-esque. It was black from the number and size of the things men had shoved in. An inch of the interior stuck out, forming thick, wilted lips, droopy and sleek like a panting dog's. The man slicked it back so one could see the extent of the damage. Huge as it grew, I was surprised when I turned the page. The man's fist had squeezed inside. Maybe the boy had passed out because his face had a peacefulness I still don't believe in, or he was dead, but I couldn't consider that. Anyway, he didn't change his expression for the rest of the sequence. I can't remember the details of how I felt. Not completely turned on, although I know I jerked off. Being inexperienced, I naturally responded to the chance to explore someone pretty, and once the model's amazing resemblance to Philip sank in, I must have felt overwhelmed by the thought that my friend could have wound up like Lad, a mere example of youth at the crux of some stranger's lust. I closed my eyes and imagined my hand inside a teenager's body. I felt out of this world, on top of Lad's world, and Philip looked like he should look. Gone, buried, forgotten, out. I misplaced that magazine years ago, or someone stole it. When I discovered its absence, I felt like somebody had dug Philip's body up. He was loose again. He possessed lovers, his smirk on their faces, the way a lost child seems to be on the muzzle of the tame tiger he was last spotted petting. Philip hovers just inside my daydreams, unseen but omnipresent, and once in a while I try to kill him off. I shove the knot of my feelings as deep as they'll go into as compact and smoothed out a prose style as I can build out of what I know, but they don't belong here any more than a man's fist belongs in a boy's ass.